Trucker Dump for May 18th, 2010, Episode 43, Go to Bed Angry.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hello all, Todd McCann here. Picture the scene. It's a perfect night. Not too hot, not too cold. I back into my parking spot at the truck stop and turn off my engine. What do I hear? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a soul around me is idling. The world is calm. Aha! A perfect night to do some recording. I pull out the computer, fire it up, and plug in my mic. I open GarageBand, and just as I'm getting ready to hit the red record button, a train horn blasts about a block away. Wouldn't you know it? Well, what could have possibly been the longest train in the world has finally passed. So let's get started before the next one comes along. I went against the advice of every marriage counselor in the world when I titled this one, Go to Bed Angry. Never go to bed angry is a bit of relationship advice that you'll get from every relationship guru on the planet. Clearly, these know-it-alls have never driven a team truck with a co-driver. Well, in my infinite knowledge, I'm here to tell you that it's okay to go to bed angry. Sometimes, it's even the smartest thing you can do. When the evil overlord and I started looking into truck driving, I talked to a lot of truck drivers. As a dock worker, I had access to plenty of them. And as you well know from reading my blog and my Twitter stream, it's not exactly hard to get a truck driver to talk. Anyway, when these truckers discovered that I planned to drive as a team with my wife, nearly every trucker had the same advice. Don't do it if you want to stay married. There's a lot of truth to this. Many a story has been passed around about team drivers not getting along, whether it be husband and wife teams, two members of the same sex, or even two unmarried members of the opposite sex. Nearly everyone has heard stories of two co-drivers duking it out on the shoulder of the highway. Quite frankly, I'm a little peeved that I haven't witnessed even one knockdown drag-out in all my 13 years. Other tales involve one of the team members being stranded somewhere by a co-driver. I'm sure that the evil overlord has contemplated this on numerous occasions. Luckily for me, she hasn't had the cojones to do it just yet. The point is, if you want to drive a truck as a team, you'd better choose the right co-driver. So who is the right co-driver? Well, it better be someone you get along with a lot. Not just someone who you think is okay, not just someone who seems like a nice person. You need to know this person intimately. Husband and wife is a likely pairing, but if you already get annoyed by your spouse's habit of picking their toenails and leaving them lying around, getting into a truck cab with them is only going to make things worse. That's like those demented couples who think that having a baby will help their already stressed relationship. Yeah, a crying infant that craps more than a herd of water buffalo is great for one's nerves. Parent and child teams can sometimes work too, although I'd imagine that it'd take a certain kind of relationship that I can't possibly comprehend. More common would be co-driving brothers or sisters. After all, your siblings already know all your annoying habits, yet they still answer the doorbell when you ring it instead of diving behind the couch. Best friends can manage it too, but you better make sure you've known this person long enough to know most of their faults. Another plus is that you can slug a best friend now and then and still remain friends. Still, losing a best friend because of trucking would kinda suck and stuff. I also hold little hope for two people who choose to team together just to make more money. Likewise for someone who wants a co-driver just so they won't be so lonely. Now, every team is going to have spats. There's no getting around it. Anytime you have two people crammed into such tight quarters for weeks at a time, bad stuff is bound to happen. And let me tell you from experience that certain bodily functions really don't help matters any. The key is knowing when to drop or ignore the subject. In other words, when to go to bed angry. I found that the longer you remain in the truck together, the quicker the tempers get. The evil overlord and I have figured out that it's dangerous for us to stay out for more than 3 weeks at a time. Any longer and someone is likely to wake up with a bungee cord wrapped around their neck. Your threshold may be different. Sometimes you've just got to realize that what you're fighting about has little to do with the topic at hand and much to do with the fact that you're just edgier than a wet golfer in a lightning storm. When you get to the point that the sound of the other person's voice makes you want to drive into the nearest telephone pole, after putting your seatbelt on, of course, the last thing you need to do is stay awake and try to talk the issue out before you go to bed. The thing is, it takes time and experience to know when there's a legitimate argument going on and when you're just pissed off about nothing in particular. Until you're able to figure that out, you're treading on thin ice. But if you can go to bed angry, many times you wake up and life goes on as normal. Turns out it was a stupid argument over stupid stuff. Again, I stress that this is only if you both realize that you're fighting over trivial things. If you've got big, legitimate issues, you probably need to have some overnight talks. I'm sure that your dispatcher will give you a night or two if you tell him that someone's going to be murdered if you don't get a break soon. The fact is, team driving is hard. When you're a solo driver, you get to shut the truck down and sleep in peace. If you're a team that's working for a good company, you're going to be busier than a corncob pipe vendor at a hootenanny. That means that you're going to be moving most of the time. Learning how to sleep while you bounce is perhaps the hardest thing that team drivers have to get used to. On I-40 in Tennessee, you'll sleep like a stoner. On I-95 going through New York City, you'll think your co-driver's learned some sick black magic skills and is practicing levitating your prone body. People get crabby when they can't sleep. Crabby people attack the person within reach. Solo drivers would have to go find somebody to scrap with, but a team driver has someone just sitting there asking for it. I'm convinced that the lack of quality sleep is another factor in the ongoing battle between co-drivers. Unfortunately, the driving routine you take isn't always in your hands. Neither is the choice to shut down to get some real sleep. So here's my advice to those of you who may be considering team driving. If you like your potential co-driver and are willing to accept that you might occasionally, but briefly, hate this person for no reason whatsoever, go for it. If you have a history of working things out and tolerating each other, go ahead. If you have any doubts, either drive as a solo driver or not at all. Now, if it's too late and you've already chosen a co-driver that's driving you to the loony bin, here's my advice. For now, go to bed angry. As soon as possible, find a new co-driver or go solo. And you should probably toss that steel-tipped tire thumper out the window before someone gets hurt.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Well, do you remember on the last podcast when I mentioned getting a lot of feedback from the post called Feel the Love, You Mean Old Hag? Well, I got comments here. I got a lot of comments on Twitter, too. So let's get moving. Izzy Darling writes in. I think that's a new one, too. Welcome, Izzy. She says, we're called shack bullies where I live. You know, Izzy, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to explain that one to me. Shack bullies? It is funny to say, though. If anybody else can explain what a shack bully is, let me know. BLC ZZ999, I'm getting pretty good at that, says, Todd and the Evil Overlord, very good writing. I was laughing so hard that I was crying. Sounds like a phone call I got from my former after he had gone TDY up to MO and after I showed him how to do laundry. I have no idea what that means. Seems he was having to wear pink underwear, as he wanted to know if there was any way he could get them white again. I told him that the only way that would happen is if he went out and bought brand new underwear and kept all colored clothes away from his whites when washing them. He said he was sorry. I told him he didn't do anything wrong and just to go buy some new ones the next day. You guys are okay. Thanks, Todd and Evil Overlord. I needed a good laugh. Well, always happy to provide a laugh, especially when it's at the expense of the Evil Overlord. Oh, look, Izzy wrote back in and says, a shack bully is a derogatory term used to replace wife, woman of the house, evil overlord. She rules the shack, and she's a bully. This term was invented by a couple of overserved men. Shocking, I know. Well, now I know, and that makes sense. Thanks for clearing that up for the slow guy, Izzy. Oh, that's funny. Shack bully. You know I'm going to be using that one. Helmet or Heels writes in and says, you are too funny. The Evil Overlord sure puts up with a lot, but sounds like a woman that can hold her own. Tell her if she ever needs backup, I'm there for her. I always wanted a younger brother to torment. Well, there you go again, Helmet or Heels, siding with the evil overlord. She puts up with me, eh? I'm sure she'd agree with that statement, though. As for backup, well, she needs backup about as much as I need a pair of 4-inch stilettos. I'm sure she'll appreciate the gesture anyway. And last one, well, this one actually turned into a little mini blog post of its own. I didn't include it as a podcast because it is kind of small, but I'm going to do it here. Heidi says, first of all, I have to agree about your sense of fashion. Secondly, why aren't you writing for a living? Thirdly, you two are the mushiest couple I know. Just because your I love yous translate into hot vittles and midnight potty trips doesn't make a difference. Please give the evil overlord a knuckle punch for me. Well, Heidi, as always, thanks for dropping by and leaving your comment. Now, to address these issues one at a time. First, yes, it's good when people know their limitations. As for my fashion sense, I've often said, I wear the pants in the family. It's just that she tells me which pair to wear. Sadly, that's true. I'd rather have my clothes picked and laid out than get that eye roll when I try to dress myself. Second, I don't write for a living because I haven't found anyone stupid enough to pay me for it yet. If you know any mentally unstable editors, please feel free to forward a sample of my work to them. I would appreciate it if you'd leave out the bit where I called them stupid and mentally unstable. Third, yes, the subliminal mush factor is high with the evil overlord and I. However, we should probably change the subject. I wouldn't want her to realize it and be forced to smack me with a shoe to restore the balance. Lastly, I give the evil overlord regular knuckle punches when we play the slug bug game. That's the game where she punches me in the arm as hard as she can when she sees a Volkswagen Beetle before I do. When I see one first, I give her a light arm punch, which in turn somehow manages to award her another all-out shot to my arm. Why do I go along with these rules? Wait, don't answer that. And unsurprisingly, this little mini blog post in itself got more comments. I'm telling you, this one struck a chord with some people. First up, BLCZZ999, who is a big fan of the evil overlord, writes in and says, Todd, if you're not careful, you're going to have all kinds of people having you give the evil overlord arm punches. At which point she may be behind the wheel of that big rig chasing you around the parking lot for your morning exercise. If you're not careful. Well, thanks for your concern there. Unfortunately, she already does this without needing extra arm punches as motivation. She's even been known to unhook the trailer for better maneuverability. Helmet or Heels pipes in again and says, Gosh, I wish I could send the evil overlord pictures of the VW Beetles I've owned so she could slug you anytime she wanted. What's her email address? Well, Helmet or Heels, I regret to inform you, but the evil overlord has recently joined a religious cult whose only restrictions are email and lime jello. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this may cause. Izzy Darling writes in and says, All hail the evil overlord. If for no other reason, she has trained you not to pick out your own clothes. She is awesome. When the man presented me with a hypothetical situation wherein we would reside together, he asked me if I would throw out all his clothes. The answer? Absolutely. Forewarned is forearmed. Well, Izzy, if he dresses anything like I used to, I fully support your donation to the Goodwill. And lastly, BLCZZ999 writes back in and says, Dude, I really doubt that religious cult restrictions are going to keep the evil overlord from punching you in the arm, for any reason. Ah yes, dropping the trailer for better maneuverability. You're in big trouble, mister. Well, you're right. I do stand corrected. The evil overlord probably wouldn't be a good cult follower. She's much more likely to be the leader. Well, thanks a lot, guys. That was a lot of fun. That whole exchange was just a hoot to me. I really got a lot of laughs, a lot of kicks out of that one. The only thing funnier is if some of these were audio comments. Well, let's see if we can keep this sucker going. Send in those comments. And here's how you do it. Oh my word, that was awful. That train, yeah, one went by about every 15 minutes. And since my ability to speak in coherent sentences tonight was comparable to a toddler's, this one took forever. See, do you have a story about a co-driver? Have you ever seen her duke 'em out? Let us hear about it. type Go to Bed Angry into the search bar at abouttruckdriving.com and leave a comment, or shoot me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com. I'm at Todd McKenna on Twitter, and I'd love to hear from you over there. My name has 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. Subscribe, blah, blah, blah. iTunes reviews, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for listening. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way.